Well, good morning, everybody. Let me just first thank you guys for being here last night. Appreciate the state team that we've had out on the ground. Obviously, Colonel Wright's with us, Director Stallings, Lieutenant Governor Jones, Speaker Burns, and Representative Crow with us this morning. We've got a lot of updates for you. Director Stallings will probably give you the meat of this and more details than I will, but I just want to give a quick overview. We know we've had multiple tornadoes across the state. The damage is, literally statewide in different places. This storm moved all across our state. Unfortunately, it's been a tragic night and morning in our state. We know we've lost 2 fatalities. We can confirm one of those is a state employee that was responding to storm damage. We'll have more details on that later in the day. And then obviously the tragic loss of something that has been reported, a 5-year-old that was killed by a falling tree on a vehicle. To the best of my knowledge, I know Director Stallings can give you more details. That was obviously in the representative and lieutenant governor's local community. I'd like to just ask all Georgians to keep those that have experienced loss in their thoughts and prayers, as the Kemp family and the rest of us will do, but also continue to pray for all of our first responders. We got a lot of state workers out there in dangerous situations, a lot of our private utility partners and others that are trying to restore power. It's a very dangerous environment, certainly last night and still is today. We literally have teams responding all over the state where there is damage. We've got the Georgia Emergency Management Agency. Obviously, the Operations Center is up and running and has been, was last night. We've got our teams out helping and assessing. Obviously, Colonel Wright, the Department of Public Safety, State Patrol, all their resources are out. They've done everything to help with traffic control to get power companies to down lines to getting kids home from school yesterday. We've also got DNR, Department of Natural Resources, and forestry chainsaw teams out across the state. Lots of roads blocked that are preventing crews from restoring power. So we ask everybody to be patient. We got every resource that we can possibly put on the ground. It's just going to take us a while because it's dangerous work and there's a lot of it to do. And then lastly, obviously DOT's out as well, doing the exact same thing, continuing to monitor traffic and other hot spots around the state. The Lieutenant Governor and the Speaker and I will be leaving shortly to take a helicopter tour of the damage. We are not going to go on the ground today because we do not want to disrupt the many operations that we have going on. Today is not the time for us to be pulling people off of clearing roads and still getting the individuals that potentially are missing out there. We're going to allow those folks to continue to do their work, but we will assess the damage from the air, and Director Stallings can talk a little bit more about what they're doing from the ground. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Colonel Wright for just a brief update, and then Director Stallings will come up and close us out, and we'll be glad to answer a few questions. Colonel.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning, everyone. Obviously, we've been heavily involved in this situation since the very beginning last night. We've been assisting GEMA with law enforcement resource requests that have been coming in. We overnight, we helped transport students who were trapped at a middle school, trying to get them reunited with their parents. Those that we were unable to get reunited with their parents, we took them to the local Board of Education. We had troopers sit with them until we could get them reunited with their families. Overnight, we also brought in an RRT team from South Georgia. They helped with patrolling the streets to prevent any kind of looting, helping get power crews wherever they needed to get to, and we'll do the same tonight. We'll have that same resource overnight. We brought in additional resources for the early and the late shift. We have about 26 troopers and motor carrier officers that are on the ground now in Spalding County who are assisting Spalding County with all of their disaster recovery. Aviation has also been up helping the counties do damage assessment and reconnaissance missions this morning, and obviously DPS has committed any resource that we have, and we will obviously help and be with the counties and the locals until this is completed. So thank you.
Well, we'll let y'all hear from Director Stallings.
Excuse me. Thank you, Governor. Yesterday around 3 o'clock we saw our first rotation develop on radar in Troup County. From that point all afternoon we continued to see rotations develop. We have 4 confirmed tornado tracks as of right now in our state. Those areas hardest hit, as NWS described it, as a rapidly intense storm hit Spalding County. So if you're in that area today, we would ask you stay where you are. There are teams that are still trying to cut through the debris. We have a lot of roads that are still inaccessible. We want to make sure our power companies and our cut teams can get there. Overnight, DNR, Forestry Commission have been out doing their job. It's been extremely impressive to see how much they've been able to accomplish in just such a short amount of time. As the governor mentioned, we do have a couple fatalities, and that is a result of debris falling. But just because the storm has passed, don't be shocked to find out that more trees are going to come down, limbs are going to break loose. There's still some wind and a front moving through, so anything that's loose will still fall. As the governor mentioned, we have widespread damage statewide, so if you do have damage, make sure you're in contact with your local emergency management agency. They're going to be who helps you respond to that damage. They're going to take those calls, they'll start reporting that up so that we can be doing assessments. Our teams are out statewide doing assessments today, trying to determine what that damage does total up to. The National Weather Service is also conducting track investigations to determine the intensity of the storms that we saw yesterday, as well as the length of time that those were on the ground. We've got some reports that the one in Spalding County was on the ground for quite a long period of time, and at some points even as high as 5 miles wide. So it was an extremely powerful storm. And so I would just tell you today, be patient with us. We're doing the best we can inside the circumstances that we're working in, and we will get to you and help recover things as quickly as possible. If you're in those hardest hit areas though and you don't have power, don't expect it to be back on quickly, but do not go outside and start messing with down lines. Unfortunately, we have 2 fatalities already. We do not need to add to that because we have folks that are untrained trying to assist. And we appreciate all that you're doing out there. Again, our state agencies, we couldn't do this without them. And with that, Governor, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, we'll open it up for questions.
Lieutenant Governor, can you talk about the nature of the damage or what you know that's happened back in Butts County, Jackson area?
Well, the damage is significant. You know, talking to people on the ground there, you know, obviously our thoughts and prayers are with the family of the young child who was killed, you know, earlier this morning. But the damage is significant. But thanks to Governor Kemp's leadership and our team, men and women from DOT to GSP to, you know, all emergency responders are trying to help the locals and assist and assess and everything. And so I will, after when I get the opportunity to do a fly around, but also have an opportunity to go home myself and assess it firsthand. But according to people on the ground there, it's pretty significant.
Yeah.
Can you talk some more about the public employee who died and what the circumstances were?
Yeah, I don't know that we want to say a whole lot right now. I'm not 100% positive. Next of kin has been notified, so I'd rather delay and just we'll update you as soon as we got more information, unless you got something else. Okay?
Are we able to say what agency? Or would you rather wait on that as well?
We can say that.
Yeah. DOT. Okay. Anybody else?
What do you have, Director Stallings, is there any count of injuries at this point?
Oh yes, sir. There's widespread injuries. I mean, in Troup County alone, there's one subdivision with 50 homes where, there are 50 homes that have displaced individuals. Last night in Spalding, we had a shelter that sheltered 130 individuals. There's a lot of injuries. The fatality of the 5-year-old had a critically injured parent inside the vehicle with them that was transported. So there's a lot of debris. We've got families that seek shelter underneath their home, and then the home crumbled around them. So we had rescue teams out trying to dig homes off of folks. So we've got a lot of injuries. Unfortunately, that's one of those, but it sure beats the alternative. Fortunately, the 2 fatalities is all we have right now.
And I know last night I was getting reports from the folks at Piedmont Spalding that they had over a dozen injured folks come into the hospital. Thankfully, none of those, I don't believe, turned into fatalities, but there's definitely some injuries out there. We know of people that were stranded in homes where literally the whole house collapsed and they were under the crawl space, and we're trying to get to folks like that right now. Still have individuals that are unaccounted for that we got to figure out where they are. I mean, they could be, sheltering somewhere else, or they could be waiting to get cut out. So that's why we don't want to disrupt things on the ground today. We still have a lot of work to do.
Do you have an estimation of economic damage?
We wouldn't be able to tell that right now. That's a main priority of GEMA, certainly, but our first is life and safety issues and restoring power and those type things, necessities for people. So we'll do that, and then we'll assess the economic damage.
There was talk that the high school in Griffin had been hit. Is there any other notable public infrastructure that's been damaged?
Not significant. I mean, there's a lot of buildings that have lost roofs. There's a lot of those. Our school systems, roadways are the big issue right now. Just the straight line winds. Just because there wasn't a tornado in your area, the front of this storm was moving 50, 60, sometimes 75 mile per hour straight line winds. So that's toppling trees regardless of rotation. So a lot of the stuff is still, sun's coming up. We're getting assessments now.
I think one of the things I was getting reports on last night, and we had power lines down across roads that you couldn't get to that was, obviously damaging roads. I saw a media report this morning where a rail car had been blown off the tracks. I mean, so that's significant winds and tornado activity. So this is a very strong storms, multiple, as I said earlier, that we're dealing with. It's going to take us a little while to fully assess when and where and, how much damage it was.
Governor, is there any thought about seeking federal assistance, federal emergency declaration?
Well, we'll certainly do that if we qualify. I mean, that's one of the things that Director Stallings, unfortunately, the GEMA team is well versed in. We'll absolutely do that if we meet the qualifications. But we'll keep you guys posted the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And you just heard from Governor Brian Kemp, freshly into his second term as governor. 2 confirmed deaths following severe weather, and just taking a look at some of the damage here from yesterday. I think a lot of you who were with us throughout our coverage yesterday as we were taking you wall to wall through this destruction. Now we've since learned the National Weather Service has confirmed at least 4 tornadoes touched down in North Georgia. That number is expected to rise. But what we can tell you, 2 people have died following this severe weather, one of which is a 6-year-old, the other a state employee. I believe we just heard from the governor and state officials that employee was with the health department. And joining us is meteorologist Courtney Jacobazi. You were part of that effort to first alert this, to get people prepared, and then taking them through the coverage. Let's talk a little bit about where we are now weather-wise.
Yeah, so really I've been describing our weather really starting yesterday to today is weather whiplash. We go from 70 degrees outside yesterday, severe thunderstorms, to now winter weather advisories for some of our northern counties. So this is a really unique setup. We talked about that on Atlanta News First this morning. It's not strange to have severe weather in January. It's not strange to have tornadoes in January, but our setup yesterday was what was unique, to be spring-like in that manner. And then now to still have enough moisture in our atmosphere. This time of year, in the summertime here, it's really humid, but then in the wintertime, it's really dry. So to still have this moisture that's going to go from being enough moisture to fuel thunderstorms yesterday to now enough moisture for snow flurries, even some snow accumulation, really, really strange. But of course, the colder weather, thankfully some drier weather, it's going to not prevent the National Weather Service from going out and surveying this damage today, because that is where they're kind of picking up today. Is we know that we've had confirmed tornadoes, but what are their logistics? What are their statistics? Were they EF1? Were they EF3? We had that one supercell that we were following that started back in Alabama, and we had put something out on social media saying we're watching this really carefully, because if it moves over the Georgia line and holds together, it could cause problems for us here. And that's exactly what it did over in Spalding County in Griffin. And so it was just a really long track very long-lived, I should say, supercell that spawned multiple tornadoes, caused multiple tornado warnings across the area. And now today, I do have a list on my graphics where they're going to, that's correct, where they're going to survey. But first, I wanted to show this. So what you're looking at on your screen right now, you might recognize from our coverage yesterday. This is from our first alert radar yesterday at 4:27. So this is that severe warned cell, that purple flashing box there, that means confirmed tornadoes. So something really unique and interesting about our radar system is we have the power for us to ultimately show you automatically when a tornado gets confirmed. So a tornado warning will show up as a red polygon, but when it becomes confirmed, either radar or someone on the ground is confirming that for us, whether it be someone from the National Weather Service or someone in the community, that box will turn purple when we know it's a confirmed tornado. So that's what that was yesterday over in Griffin. That's one of the ones that was confirmed. It's just, again, still how strong was it, how long lived was it, how far did it travel, how wide was it. So what you're looking at is the debris detector. This is a fairly new radar product. So radars are constantly evolving and becoming better and more useful to us as meteorologists, to the viewer at home to understand what's happening in your neighborhood. Our anchor, Gravir Dinza, was earlier saying, you know, back when she was younger, you just heard tornado warning in your area and everyone just kind of went into their safe place because you weren't able to track it at street level like we are now. So this is just a true testament of the evolution of radar. So what you're looking at is something we call correlation coefficient, and what the purple is, that's showing rain falling. So what this does is show you the size of the droplets in the air. So when they're all the same size, which is rain, because rain droplets are just about the same size, you're going to see that purple color. But when there's something larger in the atmosphere, it turns blue like that, and that's when you detect debris in the air. So when you see a blue dot like that, that's when you know something larger is in the air amongst all the rain that's falling. So that's when we knew, okay, this is a serious situation. There is debris clearly flying in the air over in the Griffin area, and we saw some of the aftermath from that in a lot of our video throughout the morning and throughout last night. So here's a look at the surveys today. So as soon as we learn the information on these tornadoes, we're going to let you know. But of course, they are going to go to Griffin today in Spalding County. They're going to go to LaGrange today as well, and they're going to go to Meriwether County. So there's 3 survey groups that will go out. Ultimately, what they're going to do is look at things like tree patterns. If trees fall straight all in one direction, that's usually an indication of straight line winds. But if you kind of see them all turned in different directions, if you see, we saw it in some of our coverage today, some of the metal pieces wrapped around trees and all mangled and kind of looking more like a puzzle than just kind of flat on the ground, that's when you get an idea that there is tornadic activity. So that's what the National Weather Service is going to do today. They'll also look at some of the paths along the ground, because you can see sometimes, I've personally gone out with a survey crew before, back when I was in central Georgia, and you can sometimes see just the path that the tornado went through, and it's really, really incredible to see. Of course, devastating, but it's a really unique process that they go through, a really interesting process, and as soon as we find that information out, we will let you know. So here's a look at our setup. This is what I was telling you, Maria, that it was really strange. So in the winter time, usually our severe weather, because we do have a second severe weather season in the winter. And so normally in the winter time, because our air is so dry, we don't have the moisture to create fuel for these storms. So our storms are normally, our severe weather is normally what we call a high shear, low cape. So what that means is high spin in the atmosphere, that change in wind direction and speed with height, but not a lot of energy. But sometimes you just don't need the energy because you have so much wind shear that can still create severe weather. But this was a very spring-like system. We had every ingredient. We had the warm and moist air pulling in from the Gulf. You probably noticed, everyone at home watching, that it was spring-like. It was kind of muggy outside. We hit 70 degrees yesterday in Atlanta, and that was all that warm and moist air getting advected out of the Gulf of Mexico. Then here comes our cold front, and what happened is all that cold air shoved underneath that warm air and lifted along that cold front and created those severe storms. So ahead of the front, the air was coming out of the south. And I'm used to talking with my hands as if I'm on a green screen. I almost just touched the computer. But so you had all this air coming out of the south, wind at the surface coming out of the south. Behind our cold front, it was coming out of the northwest. So there's that change in wind direction, right? Then you had that warm air to make the air very buoyant. So everything was able to lift very easily. And that cold front forced it all up. So you had every single severe weather ingredient that you typically get in the springtime happen yesterday. So really, really strange setup. Now, don't get me wrong. wrong. It's not impossible. Obviously, it happened yesterday. It's not like we haven't had it before, but this isn't typical for our winter severe weather events. This was a very spring-like system, which, to my point of that, normally in winter, when you get the severe weather setups without all the energy like that, you don't get the super long track tornadoes. So to see that supercell that really started back in Alabama and then made it all the way into Georgia, that is what is really, really unique and different and atypical for this time of year. So to see a long track system like that, a long lived system like that in the wintertime is, again, not necessarily impossible. It's not like this is the first time we've ever seen it, but it's just rare. So here is where the system is now. We're going to take you through the forecast because, again, weather whiplash, guys. We went from 70 yesterday to now seeing flurries already in the Blue Ridge area. So there's that front now bringing rain and storms down towards the central Florida area. It's actually bringing snow to parts of Tennessee and Kentucky. And so that low, that actually helped with our severe weather threat yesterday. The closer you get to those centers of low pressure, the wind is higher. Also, you get a little more spin near those centers of low pressure. So that helped with our severe weather threat. But what it's doing today is something completely different. It's actually bringing our winter weather threat. I'm looking at some of the comments really quick. I definitely see you guys. Good morning to everybody. Donna, you're in Griffin. Thankfully, you're safe. Yes, we are so glad to hear that. I hope that you and your family, were able to tune in and feel safe. And now that you are, we're glad to hear. Yes, Brian Kemp just spoke. We're going to have a lot of coverage on that later today if you missed it. And of course, it'll be on our social platforms. So yeah, we are, again, working on getting more information on what happened yesterday. We're going through the forecast right now. So this is kind of just continuing our coverage on exactly what happened yesterday and moving forward. What's the weather going to be like now that we're done with the severe threat, which again, we are working on getting more information on. The National Weather Service going out today to survey a handful of the tornadoes that happened in 3 of our counties, just 3. There's more to do, but today they're going to the biggest ones in Spalding, Meriwether, and Troup counties. So again, here's that low. Now, I put those little arrows going around the low to show you the way wind rotates around an area of low pressure is counterclockwise. So what that's doing is taking all that moisture out in the Atlantic and pulling it around that area of low pressure and keeping moisture in our atmosphere. So the air is now turning to below freezing temperatures behind our cold front, and that moisture is running into it. So that's going to create the winter weather potential for the day today. Now, an area of high pressure is going to quickly also fill in behind it. Why is that important? Well, you're going to notice it's windy out there today. It's going to stay windy as that area of low pressure and high pressure battle each other. That's what creates wind, is a pressure difference. So as those two kind of fight for their spot, it's going to be windy and it'll stay windy into tomorrow. But thankfully, as that high moves in and that front continues to push away from the coast, we're going to see a lot of sunshine tomorrow. So we just kind of got to get through today. Again, already seeing some flurry activity up in the Blue Ridge area, in Chattanooga. Take a look out in Alabama. They're already seeing snow showers falling. In the metro area, we've seen a brief changeover here and there, maybe to some sort of wintry mix, but for the most part, just light rain. But we could see flurries as far south as Metro Atlanta today. So if you see a couple of white snowflakes flying around later today, don't be surprised. It is possible. Now here's the winter weather advisory. So this is when we think that there could be maybe some travel issues. So up in the mountains, Ellijay, Helen, Dahlonega, of course, Blue Ridge area, so Union Towns, Fannin, Gilmer counties, you guys could all experience actual snow, so accumulating snow. Upwards of 2 inches in the highest elevations. You could get 2 inches of snow. For the most part, it'll be about ½ an inch to an inch of snow, but in the highest elevations, above 2,000 feet, above 1,500 feet, you could get 2 inches of snow. So accumulating snow possible that could cause some travel issues. If anyone was planning on maybe traveling up to the Blue Ridge Mountains this weekend, just keep in mind travel might be a little dicey. In the meantime, we have cloudy skies out there. Unfortunately, the skies aren't going to start to clear until later this evening. We will see sunshine today, especially as we head closer to sunset, but expect for the first half of the day at least for the clouds to be pretty thick. It is cold out there, but again, look at the wind. So it's north-northwest at 20 miles per hour. It's going to make it feel a lot colder. We're all generally in the upper 30s, low 40s. can you say cold front? We're talking anywhere between negative 22, anywhere between 22 to 27 degrees colder than this time yesterday. So that's how strong that front was that moved through, that obviously brought us that severe weather. You factor in the wind, which is clearly blowing pretty quickly. It is feeling freezing in most spots. So you want to bundle up today, and you're going to want to just keep that coat handy. I know you probably were all in flip-flops and shorts the past couple of days, but now you need to bring the winter coats back out. Today, temperatures only in the low 40s with flurries possible. Again, that potential for accumulating snow in the higher elevations of the mountains. So we'll take you through our futurecast radar really quick. When you see those purpley colors, that is snow showers. The white color, more flurry activity. So again, notice down towards the metro as we head into the afternoon, the potential for some flurries is there. For the most part, it's going to be that misty, cold, drizzly rain that everyone just loves so much. That's going to be possible through the afternoon, but again, for some of that to change over into flurry activity, can't rule that out. If you focus on the North Georgia mountains, notice that it's kind of on and off, snow showers and flurries through the day. That's why we're thinking they can see some accumulation all the way into tomorrow morning. So here's a look at the forecast snowfall totals for the mountains. So up in Fannin County, you could see isolated amounts as high as 2 inches in the highest elevations. Most of you, though, up in the North Georgia mountains will see just a dusting of snow. That's about it. Tomorrow, huge parade going on. Thankfully, our severe weather is out of the way for it. We will see a lot of sunshine, but unfortunately, it is still going to stay very cold. We'll have temperatures generally in the 40s throughout the parade. The dog walk kicks off at 1 o'clock. We will have coverage here on Atlanta News First of that parade for you. So if you don't want to go out and brave the cold or drive up to Athens, then you can always watch it here with us. We'll have live coverage again. Ella Dorsey and Rob Hughes will be there covering it for you, but it is going to be cold. It's going to feel like the 20s and 30s throughout the parade, so just be sure that you are bundling up if you go. It's a hat, a scarf, a gloves, coat kind of day if you are going to go and celebrate the big dogs win. The weekend stays cold. We'll actually wake up below freezing both mornings. We'll wake up near 30 tomorrow and then same on Sunday. Warmer though on Sunday as we head into the second half of the weekend. When we go into next week, we are going to, did I just go backwards? Hold on 1 second. I think I just went backwards. That's okay. When we go into next week, we are going to have rain chances return to the forecast. And we do have another first alert in play for Tuesday and Thursday. So next Tuesday and Thursday is a day that we're going to be watching for. My graphics froze. That's okay though. Our graphics system did a lot of work yesterday.
Yes, it did.
But we have another first alert, and it's important to talk about. You know, we first alerted yesterday, I want to say almost like 5 days out, right? And then we had the discussion, okay, do we need a first alert weather day? And I think the team, everyone here, it's not, I mean, our meteorologists talk about it, but we talk about it with the whole crew here. I think that was really important because clearly this was a huge impact event for a lot of people. It was a threat to people's safety, obviously to their livelihood, their property. And so to put that kind of heightened importance on a weather day, I think was really important to keep you and your family safe so that you knew, okay, this is a day to circle on our calendar. This is a day where we need to have that severe weather plan that we always tell you to have ready to go. But we do have a first alert for Tuesday and Wednesday of next, or Tuesday and Thursday, excuse me, of next week because of elevated rain chances. Now, the good news is we're going to be back in the 60s again next week, guys. So while it's going to be cold in the next few days, we do warm back up next week. Tuesday looks fine storm-wise. Thursday, we might have some thunderstorms return back to the area. It is far too soon to think about severe weather for that, but we could have thunderstorms in our forecast again on Thursday. So just next week, enjoy the cold weekend, just bundle up, but next week, Tuesday and Thursday, you're definitely going to want to just stay aware with the weather because we could have widespread rain that could impact your morning commute Tuesday, but then maybe more thunderstorms on Thursday. So
a lot to watch out for.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to talk a little bit about yesterday, the weather team and the efforts and the conversations that were had in this room that, you know, our viewers might have not been able to be a part of. But we were talking about this, and we were talking about the best way to get information out to the people, especially in these communities, talking about Spalding, Henry, Troup County, all of these places that were going to feel the brunt of impact from these tornadoes. And really, as a viewer, I want to say, you know, we were following Chief Meteorologist Jennifer Valdez, the rest of the team, Patrick, Rodney, you, and Ella, along as you guys were updating us minute by minute. And I remember just feeling comforted. You know,
Right.
it was a moment that a lot of people were experiencing, we're kind of in this together, but that calm voice meteorologists who have done the research, who have been tracking this minute by minute for over a week, and guiding us through that I want to say as a viewer has been just so necessary during a time like this.
Right, and to that point, so we talk about our app a lot, and we brag about it a lot, but for good reason. Yesterday, so I live in Cobb County, and the wind was rushing, and I was wondering, okay, is this a severe storm, or is there going to be a tornado warning? And as soon as I picked up my phone, it gave me an alert that there was a severe thunderstorm warning in my area. And it's just important to have tools like that to make you aware, because if there is a severe thunderstorm in your area, you don't want to drive. I mean, you wouldn't want to drive out in that anyway. But if you felt like you needed to go somewhere, like at that point when there's severe weather, you don't need to go anywhere. If there's a tornado warning, okay, it's in my area, let me turn on either the TV, or you could stream it for us. And that, just having a tool like that to keep you informed, I think that's one of the best things about, I was talking about our radar products are starting to get better. Technology has been so key in safety for people, because now you could take a phone in your hand into your safe spot and watch coverage now. And we really are, we meteorologists, we love the weather, we're nerds about the weather, but events like yesterday is why we love what we do, why we do what we do. Whether it was just forecasting it, like Ella and I were in the morning, or covering the brunt of it in the afternoon. It's really why we do what we do. And
then to get out in the communities. I mean, Chief
Right.
Meteorologist Jennifer Valdez was out in one of the sites where they experienced massive destruction, and she was walking us through that and really explaining how this all went down and how the community is healing. And I think that goes a step beyond a meteorologist
Right.
providing a forecast. That is really a for the people presence, a for the people report, and then just that calm voice again.
Right.
In the aftermath, during it, before it, through and through, I just wanted to say the meteorology department here has done a stellar job. I know you guys are all over this constantly, but that app is free. Download it. We will send notifications to your phone, so you don't even have to really check it, and it's specific to your area.
Correct, right. So, you turn your location on. You know, it always asks you, do you want to use your location? Hit yes while using or hit yes, because then anytime it'll just come right to your phone. But yeah, today is obviously a cleanup process. Governor Brian Kemp just spoke, and we have the state of emergency for the state, and so there's going to be a long process. This, again, severe weather events aren't uncommon to Georgia and the southeast. It kind of comes with the territory, unfortunately. So this isn't new to us, but every time it happens, it feels new, because every storm is different, every weather system is different, and this clearly now, people in Griffin, well, I guess I should say Wednesday, woke up, everything was fine. They had their homes, they had their cars, they had their family members. And today, and that's obviously a really different story for a lot of people, within 48 hours, people's lives got flipped upside down. But I know that I've lived in Georgia now for 6 years, and the state officials, the communities, whether you're from a small town, whether you're from a big city like Atlanta, they do a great job of coming together. And this cleanup process is going to take a long time. And the survey process is going to take a fairly long time, because there's just a lot of tornadoes they need to, or potential tornadoes in some cases, that the National Weather Service is going to have to survey. So, and they only have so many people to be able to go out and do that. So we're going to constantly have updates on, again, the logistics of the confirmed tornadoes and the possible tornadoes. So just continue to watch our coverage, because this isn't going to be just a 24-hour thing and it's going to be done. This is going to potentially be days, weeks, months long of cleanup, of surveying, of damage. So, and I will say one more quick thing. Only because we saw it, and Megan Packer was out, unfortunately, covering the death of the 6-year-old boy out in Butts County. And it was because a tree fell on their car. And she was showing in the area trees down all over the roadways and trees on other vehicles. So the ground was really saturated before this whole event happened. Then you had rain. It was really windy before the event and after the event. It still is windy out there, guys. The ground is still saturated. So any loose trees that didn't manage to get knocked down yesterday, it's still possible that they get knocked down today, that brings down more power lines. So while the main severe weather threat is over, the threat is still not completely gone. The overall threat isn't gone because trees can still come down, the ground is still saturated, it's still pretty windy out there. So you just need to be really careful driving around in your neighborhoods today, especially if you have older trees in your neighborhood. You just want to be really, really careful as you go out and about today. There's still power lines in the roads, there's still trees down on the road, and that's going to take a long time to kind of get all straightened out. So just be really careful because, again, our severe weather threat is over. Our winter weather threat isn't over, but the threat for things like trees to come down, that's just not done yet until our wind can die down and the sun can come back out and kind of dry us out a little bit.
And we will be monitoring all of that. I wanted to make sure we didn't minimize the fact that several people are still without power, and you heard Governor Kemp say that power is not going to get restored very quickly because they have to find a way to safely restore that power,
Right.
to address those down power lines, to clear those blocked roadways and fallen trees on people's homes, making it impossible for them to even return to their house.
Right.
So there's a lot more that is going to be done today. The governor is going to be taking a helicopter ride onto these areas, Spalding County, Troup, Henry County, all these different areas where these tornadoes touch down. And we'll be following along with that. Our team is all over these counties and these areas, following the destruction, talking to community members, and just figuring out how we can all help each other at
Right.
this time. We'll be bringing you all of that on Atlanta News First and in the Atlanta News First app. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you guys for trusting us with your family and your family's safety in severe weather events. We are so glad to be there for you guys. And thank you for letting me talk about the weather.
Oh, absolutely.